This is the T50 Ergonomic office chair. I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it. I have been using this chair as my main desk chair for workdays that run long, plus nights when I am editing video, answering emails, or just sitting and reading. If you spend a lot of hours in the same seat and you care about how your back and neck feel at the end of the day, this is the kind of chair that is trying to solve that problem. It is not a chair for someone who only sits down for short sessions. It makes the most sense when you are parked at a desk for a big chunk of your day, and you want a setup you can adjust to your body instead of adjusting your body to the chair. What makes it interesting to me is not one single feature. It is the fact that I can change a lot of the contact points that usually cause discomfort over time. With most office chairs I have used, I can get one area feeling right, then something else starts bothering me a couple of hours later. Here, I can actually tune it so my head, lower back, arms, and legs are all supported in a way that feels natural. Visually, it is pretty understated. The color on mine is a muted gray, and it does not look loud or aggressive in a room. The back is mesh, which I personally prefer because it does not trap heat the same way a padded back can. I tend to run warm when I am working, especially with lights on, so the airflow matters more than I thought it would. When I lean back, the mesh has some give, but it does not feel saggy. It holds my back in place without feeling like a hard plastic shell. The seat cushion is one of those things you only notice after a few long sessions. It feels firm enough that I do not sink in and lose posture, but it is not so stiff that it feels like sitting on a bench. After a couple of hours, I still feel supported under my thighs. With softer cushions, I usually start comfortable, then I end up slouching. This one encourages a more upright position without forcing it. The build overall feels solid when I shift around. When I roll it across the floor, the base feels planted. When I lean back, I do not get that twisting feeling some chairs have where the backrest flexes unevenly. I am not gentle with desk chairs. I move a lot. I lean. I scoot in. I turn. This one handles that kind of everyday movement without feeling loose. Setup took me a bit of time. It was not confusing, but it was one of those builds where you want to go slowly so you do not tighten something in the wrong order. Doing it alone was doable, but lining up a couple of parts took patience. Once it was assembled, the adjustments were the main thing I spent time on. This is the kind of chair where you should expect a short break-in period, not for the foam, but for you learning what settings work. I made a few changes during the first week, especially with the lower back support and the armrests. The headrest is adjustable, and for me, it has been useful in a very specific way. When I am sitting upright and typing, I do not want the headrest pushing my head forward. When I am leaning back to think, or when I am watching a long video while taking notes, I want it to catch my head gently. I was able to set it so it stays out of the way when I am upright, then actually supports my neck when I recline. If you are taller or shorter than average, you will probably appreciate being able to move it to where your head actually is, instead of where the chair designer guessed it would be. Lower back support is the feature I notice the most day to day. If it is too aggressive, it feels like someone is pressing a fist into your spine. If it is too weak, you end up collapsing into the chair. I was able to dial it, and so it fills the space in my lower back without forcing me into an unnatural curve. On long work sessions, this is the difference between getting up feeling fine versus getting up and immediately stretching because your back is tight. I still stand up and move around because you should, but I feel less beat up by the end of the day. The armrests are very adjustable, and that matters more than I expected. I type a lot, and I also use a mouse for long stretches. When the armrests are too low, my shoulders tense up. When they are too high, my wrists end up at a weird angle. Here I can bring them to the height that lets my shoulders relax. Then I can shift them so my elbows are supported without pushing my arms inward. The only downside is that with this much adjustability, it can take a little time to find the sweet spot. In the beginning, I kept adjusting them because I was close, but not quite there. Once I found my settings, I stopped thinking about them. Seat depth adjustment is another thing that sounds small until you use it. If the seat is too long, it presses behind your knees and your legs go numb. If it is too short, you feel like you are perched and you do not get enough thigh support. I adjusted it so there is a little space behind my knees, and that helped a lot with comfort during longer sessions. It also helped me sit back into the backrest properly instead of scooting forward. In real-life use, I tested it on the kind of days that usually expose problems. Long typing days, long editing sessions where I lean forward more than I should, and nights where I am sitting back with a controller and a headset. On typing days, the lower back support and armrest positioning were the big wins. I could keep my posture without constantly catching myself slouching. On editing sessions, I appreciated that I could sit upright when I needed focus, then recline a bit when I was reviewing footage. The transition feels smooth and controlled. It does not feel like it suddenly drops back or fights you. One thing I do want to be clear about: this chair does not magically fix bad habits. If I sit for hours without standing, I still feel stiff. If I lean forward with rounded shoulders, a chair cannot fully correct that. What it does do is reduce the amount of strain I feel when I am sitting in a normal working posture. It supports the positions I actually use instead of forcing me into something that only works in theory. Daily use has been simple once it is set. I do not constantly fiddle with controls. I mostly leave it alone and just sit. The mesh back keeps me cooler than my old padded chair, especially in warmer months. The chair also feels like it has enough range that I can share it with someone else in the house, then bring it back to my settings without a fight. There is one thing I need to address because it is part of my usual review structure: smart features and mobile app support. With this chair, there is no mobile app. There are no software features. Everything is mechanical, and honestly I am fine with that. A chair does not need updates. What matters is whether it adjusts easily and holds its position. In my use, it has held its adjustments and it has not started creaking or loosening in a way that makes me worry. Limitations. The chair has a fairly substantial footprint, so if you are working in a tight space, you should measure your area and make sure you have room to roll and recline. The assembly takes time, so set aside a calm window to do it. Also, because it is supportive, some people who are used to very soft chairs might need a few days to adapt. When I first switched, I noticed the firmness more. After that, I started appreciating it because I was not sinking and slouching. Overall, I have been comfortable using the T50 Ergonomic office chair for long hours, and it has been easier on my back compared to the average office chair I have used. The real value for me is that I can adjust it to fit my body and the way I work, then forget about it and just get on with my day. If you have questions about fit, comfort, or how it feels after long sessions, leave a comment and I will try to help based on my experience. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.